Here's a question almost every retiree gets half right. You know how much you need to pull from your savings each year, but do you know which account to pull it from first? Because that one choice, the order you tap your accounts, can quietly cost you tens of thousands of dollars over a retirement. Same savings, same spending, a very different tax bill. Today, I'll show you the standard order, the trap hiding inside it, and how to do it smarter, while you still have control. You've met for— Hey there! Uncle Ray here. Grab a coffee. Pull up a chair. Today we're talking about the order you spend your money in retirement. Frank and Carol, like a lot of retirees, their savings sit in 3 very different buckets. And here's the thing almost nobody is told. Those 3 buckets are not the same money. Each one has its own tax rules, its own tax DNA. Pull from the wrong one at the wrong time, and you hand the IRS money you never had to give. Let's look at all 3. Bucket 1, the taxable account. That's a regular brokerage account. You already paid tax on the money going in. So when you sell, you're only taxed on the growth, the capital gains. And here's the good news. Long-term capital gains are often taxed at 0 or 15%. That's usually lower than the rate on a paycheck. This is your cheapest bucket to tap, and later, it hides a trick most people miss. Bucket 2, the traditional 401k or IRA. This is the big one for most people. You got a tax break when you put the money in. But every single dollar you take out is taxed as ordinary income, the same as a paycheck. And there's a catch you can't dodge. Starting at age 73, the IRS forces you to withdraw a required minimum every year, whether you need the money or not. Remember that age. It's where the trap lives. Bucket 3, the Roth. This is the golden one. You pay the tax up front, so it grows tax-free, and every dollar comes out tax-free. It never forces a required withdrawal in your lifetime. And this matters. Roth withdrawals don't count as income when they figure how much of your Social Security is taxed or what you pay for Medicare. It's the most flexible money you own, so you protect it the longest. So what's the standard advice? Spend the buckets in this order. Taxable first, traditional second, Roth last. The logic is simple. Use your cheapest money early and let the tax-free Roth keep growing as long as possible. For a lot of folks, that's a fine starting point. But, and this is the part almost no one tells you, following it blindly can actually cost you more. Here's why. If you leave that big traditional bucket untouched for years, it doesn't just sit there, it keeps growing. Then age 73 arrives, and the required withdrawals begin on a much bigger balance. Now you're forced to pull large amounts every year, all taxed as ordinary income. That forced income can push you up into the 22 or 24% bracket. Brackets you might have avoided entirely. And it doesn't stop at the bracket. That forced income lands on top of your Social Security, so more of your Social Security gets taxed too. It can push you over a Medicare threshold and raise your premiums. Everything stacks in the same late years. By waiting, you didn't avoid the tax. You just bunched it all up at the worst time with the least control. Quick thing before the fix. If Uncle Ray is making this clearer, hit subscribe. It's a young channel, and it genuinely helps more folks find it. All right, here's how you get ahead of all this. So here's the smarter approach. Don't drain the traditional bucket last. Tap it a little every year on purpose. Each year, pull just enough from the traditional account to fill up the 12% bracket and no more. Cover the rest of your spending from Roth or taxable. You're voluntarily paying a little tax now at a low rate to shrink that traditional balance before the required withdrawals ever hit. Small, steady, deliberate. Let me show you the difference with Frank and Carol. Say most of their savings sit in a traditional IRA. Path 1. They follow the standard order, live off taxable and Roth, and leave the IRA alone. It grows and grows. At 73, the required withdrawals hit, big ones, stacked on their Social Security, and they're pushed into a higher bracket for the rest of their lives. Path 2. From the day they retire, they pull a little from that IRA every year, filling only the 12% bracket. The balance shrinks. When 73 arrives, the forced withdrawal is small because there's less left to force out. Same spending in both paths, same lifestyle. But over a full retirement, that second path, draining the traditional bucket slowly and early, can save a couple like Frank and Carol tens of thousands of dollars in tax. For larger accounts, the difference can run into 6 figures. Nothing changed about how they lived, only the order and the timing of where the money came from. There's one stretch of time that makes this powerful. The years between when you retire and when required withdrawals start at 73. In that window, your income is often at its lowest. You may not have started Social Security and required withdrawals haven't kicked in. That's the cheapest time you will ever have to move money out of the traditional bucket or convert it to a Roth at a low rate. We did a whole video on those Roth conversions. This is the window they live in. Don't waste it. And here's the bonus hiding in that taxable bucket. In a low-income year, long-term capital gains can be taxed at 0%, not 15. 0. In 2026, a married couple can have up to about $99,000 of total taxable income and still pay nothing on their long-term gains. For a single filer, it's about $49,000. So in those quiet years before Social Security and required withdrawals, you can sell appreciated investments, reset your cost basis, and owe no federal tax on the gain. Most people never even know that window is open. One more twist that surprises people. The standard order says spend taxable first, but there's a reason to save some of it for the very end. When you pass it on, your heirs get what's called a step-up. The built-in gains are wiped clean, and they may owe no capital gains tax at all. So the real game isn't a rigid 1, 2, 3. It's coordinating all 3 buckets every year around your tax bracket. And if you're already past 73 with big required withdrawals, don't feel stuck. If you give to charity, you can send money straight from your IRA to the charity. It's called a qualified charitable distribution. It counts toward your required withdrawal, but it never lands on your tax return as income. It's one of the few ways to shrink a forced withdrawal after the fact and lower how much of your Social Security gets taxed at the same time. Before we wrap, 3 mistakes I see over and over. 1. Treating all 3 buckets like a single pile of money. They're taxed completely differently. Spend them like they're identical, and you overpay. 2. Waiting until 73 to touch the traditional account. By then, the choice is made for you. 3. Chasing this year's lowest tax bill instead of the lowest lifetime bill. Paying a little more this year can save a lot over 20 years. The goal isn't the cheapest April, it's the cheapest retirement. And here's why this ties everything together. When you shrink that traditional bucket early, you shrink the forced income later. That means less of your Social Security tax, lower odds of a Medicare surcharge, and if one spouse passes, a smaller pile of forced income landing on the survivor's single return, the widow's penalty we covered last time. Withdrawal order isn't just about this year's taxes, it quietly shapes every trap down the road. Now, a fair word of caution: there is no single order that's right for everyone. If almost all your money is in a traditional IRA, you may want to start drawing it down or converting the day you retire. If you're mostly in Roth, the standard order works just fine. The point isn't a rule to memorize, it's a question to ask every year. Which bucket and how much keeps me in the lowest bracket? Here's what 1 year can actually look like. Carol needs, say, $60,000 to live on. First, she looks at the top of her 12% bracket, and she pulls from the traditional IRA up to that line. No further. If she needs more to reach her $60,000, she takes it from the Roth tax-free, so it doesn't bump her into a higher bracket or tax more of her Social Security. Her taxable account she mostly leaves alone, saving it for later. Same $60,000 in her pocket, assembled in the order that costs the least. So let's bring it home. 3 buckets, 3 sets of tax rules. The standard order, taxable, traditional, Roth, is a starting point, not a law. The real win is filling your low bracket from the traditional account every year, using that window before 73, and keeping the whole thing coordinated around your tax bracket. Same savings, same spending, thousands of dollars in difference. And remember, I'm just a cartoon uncle. This is education, not advice. Your buckets, your brackets, and your numbers are yours alone. So sit down with your own CPA and run them for your situation. If this helped, the video on Roth conversions is the perfect next step. That's how you actually use the window we talked about. Take care of each other.